Here's live YouTube. Crazy day today out there, kids, huh? Gonna have a deal, we're not gonna have a deal, we might have a deal. Seems like a good day for a deal. Okay, we have 31 watching on YouTube now, so let me just tweet out this YouTube link. And then now I buried my window. And now I'm back. Okay, so Bill, you about ready?
Oh, I'm ready anytime.
Okay, great. So
All right.
guys, today we got Bill Olsen from NewsWare. He is going to chat to us, show us his product, kind of go through his product, and show us how he trades and the kind of trade setups he looks at doing, and what we can kind of use his product for in our own trading. So Bill's been around in the business for a while in all kinds of different positions, so he is familiar with trading and familiar with traders and very familiar with news. So it's great to have an expert in the house. So are you ready to go, Bill?
Anytime, ready to go.
All right. You seem kind of quiet to me.
Well, you know what? I've been doing this for over 30 years, to be honest with you. I started on the floor before they were even, when we were still hand drawing charts. It's been many years, but news always seemed to work for me.
Perfect.
All right. I mean, you know, what NewsWare is essentially, it's a filtering tool. It has access to, you know, the best financial sources out there. And then what we're doing is we're indexing every word of every story. You allow people to set up alerts off of things like keywords, tickers, maybe phrases, industry groups, geographical areas like China. And of course, we're scanning and for the metadata of every story. You know, we have access to the best publishers out there that are available, anyone from Dow Jones to SEC filings to press release wires, and a host of market intelligence wires. You put them all together in one application with our filtering tools, and it really does provide a valuable benefit on a regular basis. You know, I've done alerts where we're setting up just for S&P guys that just want to see the top 50 most heavily weighted cap stocks in the S&P 500. Maybe they just want to look at the top 5. I even had one guy that many years ago that just wanted to watch IBM because he felt that was the stock that was going to move the S&P the most. We can create alerts on governmental reports. We can create them off of, you know, Fed board members. I mean, I have one alert that I utilize where I put all of the Fed board members' names in it. So before a Fed rate decision, I just go back and I review it just to make sure there were no, everyone seems to be talking in the same scope and everyone's talking about either raising rates or keeping them steady or lowering them. It's a good indicator as to what's going to happen during an FOMC meeting. The real key to this product is that it's indexing every word. I mean, it's got really powerful search capabilities, including Boolean fuzzy logic functionality, and of course our core stacking technology. An example of what I mean by stacking technology is when we have 3 different news files. I use this for the CEO alert that I have running here. And what it essentially does is it tells me when a CEO was leaving a company. Now, I got burned on this trade when Meg Whitman left Hewlett Packard, and I vowed I was never going to be in that situation again. So I created a news alert on CEO changes, and the idea behind it is when a CEO of an S&P 500 stock resigns, quits, is pushed out or dies or passes away or is under investigation, the next day or that day when the market opens, these stocks typically drop 2%. Sometimes it's more, it's very rarely that it's less, but it's typically at least 2% within the first half hour. When Wells Fargo came out on March 28th and they said that their CEO was leaving, it was done in the aftermarket. Stock initially popped, but my model says you short the stock. So on the 29th, when the stock opened, it gave up all of the gains that it had made in the pre-market plus 2%, all by 10 o'clock New York time. April 8th, it happened again with this Celanese Corp. The stock just collapsed when the trading session started. Co-America on the 24th, DVA on the 29th, and last week with FLR. The only time of recent where I didn't see a dramatic drop was with PCAR on the 18th of April. That's the day before a holiday. So they came out with it at like 3 o'clock. Nobody was around. But Monday, when the market opened up, there you go, the 2% drop happened. So the real keys to it are that you're looking for a stock where the CEO change is imminent. You're looking for one where it's not a planned succession, like it's going to happen in a year or 6 months later. And the stock can't be trading at the 52-week low. That's really it. I mean, fund managers seem to get nervous and start selling off part of their positions when there's a change in CEO because they've been dealing with the other guy. And when he's gone, they typically seem to be selling some of their a percentage of the assets. So it's a good trade. I also do a lot with earnings. For earnings trades, I'm using a variety of different indicators. There's one, sometimes I'll go in front of the earnings, sometimes I'll do it after the earnings. It just kind of depends what it looks like. Today we've got a number of companies that look good that whose earnings are coming out. What I like to do is I start with the straddle price, and I want to see what the straddle looks like. The at-the-money straddle is going to give me an indication of how much the stock is going to move. So you got Yelp coming out this afternoon. It's priced for a 12% move, which is about $4 on the stock price. Zillow, the same thing. Once I see that it's going to have a decent dollar move, my next thing that I like to do is I look at the front month call options. I want to see if they're light, if there's more call activity than put activity going on. So I developed a little spreadsheet that I have running all the time that gives me the call put indicators before the options are released, before the earnings are released. I'm looking for above 1, like 1.3 to 1.3 calls to 1 put, something like that. But that's just an indicator. My feeling is if I can build multiple indicators, then the odds are on my side that I'm going to be right. So I'll look at the option volumes of the weekly options. If not, I'll do the monthlies if weeklies aren't available. I'll go back and I'll take a look at the broker recommendations. I'll filter the news by broker recommendations just to see what the brokers are saying. BMO hit it with an outperform rating. Let's see. Citi lowered its consensus. That's interesting. But again, that's just another one I'm looking at. And I also kind of like to look at go back and reread last quarter's earnings report. Just to see what the CEO said. This will give me the indication as to, if they're positive or negative on the stock. I mean, it's really a pretty good way to look at it. So if I have a positive commentary from the CEO, maybe, good call put activity, I have some good broker recommendations. Now I got three factors. And now I start looking at the stock price, and I don't want it to sell off in the last minute or so of the day. I want it to trade strong towards the end of the day. If it meets those characteristics, it's typically a good trade. And there have been times I've crushed it with this trade, and I did Walmart one time where I actually longed some calls, and I long 40 of them, and the next day the stock jumped $10 on earnings. That was just a huge winner. It met all my requirements, so I felt comfortable going long. That straddle price is very valuable because it's not telling you the direction, but it's giving you an indication as to how much the stock is going to move. So, you look at something like Yelp, it's set for a $4.50 move. Zillow is set for a $3.80 move after the close when their earnings come out. And Dropbox is set for a $1.61 move. So if I'm going to trade one of them, I'm going to be kind of watching maybe Yelp because it's the biggest straddle to see how it trades after earnings, and then I'll jump in after they're announced. Does this strategy work? That's the question. I mean, all I can say is from my experience. I mean, I'm long. Goldman Sachs came out with their earnings recently. Straddle was priced for a $9 move. Before the earnings were announced, stock was at $210. Once the earnings were announced, I actually was able to get off a short at 208. And next thing you know, it's trading 207, 206, 205. Goes back up to 206. And that's where I walked out. But, if I would have hung with it, it actually went all the way down to 201. And look at that. That was a $9 move, which equals a straddle price that I was looking for. Straddle price doesn't always hit those numbers, but it is a good indicator. It's something to watch for, and you can kind of think of it as support and resistance lines. But I enjoy using the straddle prices. I've had good success with it, trading ahead of earnings and post earnings. The post earnings, you just want to get in, as soon as the announcement is good. And if it's a good announcement, you want to get in before it runs up. Domino's Pizza recently was set for a $17 move. I think it was trading like at 80 something dollars. And I walked in there when the stock was up $4. I picked up some stock there. And I wrote it up to 12, and it went up to 17. It was a $17 move. I was happy making $8. I just said, take the risk off. Market's opening. You never know what's going to happen then. But it was a good trade. I kind of like the high straddle prices ones because stocks tend to not open up all the way at the straddle price from day one. They typically open up just a little bit higher, and then they start to rally up to the straddle price. One that I'm kind of working on now is this indications. I have this G-dot this morning. Now, the thing about G-dot was it was interesting because, I'm looking at they came out with bad earnings. Everybody knew that. But the opening, the straddle was priced for a $5 move. The stock closed yesterday at 63.27. And if you subtract the straddle price, you're looking at 57.75. Yet I pulled a news story up that showed me that the indication was 50.53. And I was like, what's going on here? So, I could have shorted the stock at 50 easily, and just held on. Next thing I know, they lowered it. They lowered the indication even further. Let me see if I can pull up that story. Yeah, here at 9:15, 55 to 58. 9:20, it's 50 to 53. And then at 9:25, it dropped down to 47.50. Well, I mean, if you look at GDOT, where's the trading now is really, what happens. This thing went down to the $42 range this morning. It just continued to drop. The momentum just carried it down lower and lower. And the opening indication was my clue, which was supported by the bad earnings result in multiple downgrades. So I haven't really finished with this model yet, but I know I can filter the data by the indications, by the opening indications. What I need to do then is use some layering technology where I say something like, maybe I just look at S&P 500 stocks and earnings and indications. So I really limit the amount of news stories that come out, because there's thousands of news stories coming out. You can't keep up with all of it. You have to, if you're going to trade off the news, you need to be able to adjust what you're seeing very quickly and on the fly. But I think that GDOT was a huge winner. And then there are some other ones there. This RYAM and VRTV had, indications as well, where the stock, traded down even further off the momentum when they came out. So it's one that I think is going to prove valuable. I just need to work on it. The alerts that I have here that I watch one that I call it HOTS, but it's really a combination of vendor news codes that are signifying that this is an important story. These guys at Fly in the Wall have this news code HOTS.fly. These guys at Street Insider have this .rumor one that I like. RTT News has a breaking news alert. I just put them all together in one alert. So rather than seeing all the news, I'm just seeing the hot ones that are coming by, so I can see if I want to do something off of it. I have the shorts one as well. This one is just made up of the names of guys who are well-known short sellers. Now, I built this alert because one day I had CNBC on. I don't know why. And Jim Chanos, Dunkin' Donuts came out with their earnings. And Jim Chanos said, hey, yeah, by the way, I'm short Dunkin' Donuts. Jim Chanos, I know him. He did business with him for many years. He's a good guy. But I remember him. He's really smart. He's really good. He's got a great following. So I just legged in and I shorted 500 shares of Dunkin' Donuts. Stock was up $1 off of the earnings. But after Jim announced that he had a short position in it, the stock took the $1.50 gain back and just continued to go lower. So that was my clue. I just heard about it. So I said, I need to find out an alert that'll tell me when these well-known hedge fund guys are talking about their stocks and when they announce a short. Citron Research, everybody knows when they throw out a short idea that collapses the stock. It's hard to catch Citron. You can typically do it on the second bounce, not on the first one. But we have all these press wires, and then we even have one that transcribes the news that's coming off of CNBC and Bloomberg TV and Wall Street Journal TV, and it turns them into a text story. So we catch these pretty quickly. I have an alert for market intelligence, which is really just a commingle of specific news codes again. It's similar to hot, but it also includes this significant news story code from Dow Jones. Dow Jones is going to be releasing 10,000 stories a day. You're not going to keep up with all of it. But if I filter it by the significant news stories, now I'm seeing the data that I want to see. Now I'm seeing the stories that they say are important. I find this to be really useful when I'm rolling through some FDA stories every morning, because there it is. You get a positive phase 3 trial or a positive phase 2 trial or the FDA approved a new drug. It might not catch any attention, but if Dow Jones throws it on their NewsWire, it's going to catch more attention. And they do it with this significant NewsWire, this PSNG, and it just works. I can't tell you how many of them I caught on this thing. It's a good method to look for. I also use this options and rumors one. I'm looking for unusual call volume, unusual put volume. I have a scanner that does it too, but I actually know the guy that writes this commentary. He's really good. And, he'll write about the volatility. He'll write about the unusual call and put volumes going on. Typically they're ahead of earnings, but it's even more interesting when it's not, because that signifies something's going on. Like when he was writing about Mylan the other day before that $5 drop. He had it. The guy had it. He's very good. He's out of Chicago. I also do something with since we're all following China, we're all following the trade talks, because this is really what's causing the market to have gyrations these days. So I created a simple alert where I put in the names of the trade negotiators. I put in, Lee He. I put in Robert Lighthouser. I put in Steve Mnuchin, and we also have these geographical code news filters, and the China one is .China. So I just added those three together inside of one alert, so I can, monitor the situation closely. And whenever there's breaking news that comes out, I can catch it. It works well. It does. I go through it in the morning because, with China, you're looking at a lot of activity. A lot of those economic numbers, are going to come out early in the morning. You're not even going to be aware of it. If you're going to try and search your news stories for it during the day, best of luck, because it's going to take too long. I do .China. I can find it in 2 seconds. I do this, my FDA alert. What's nice about NewsWare is if you look at the layout, I'm actually showing the stories ticker. I can reduce it where I just suppress any stories that don't show a ticker, but I like to see them all. But you can see these things as they come out, and that way you can at least find out if it's an opportunity or not for you. I go into NewsWare and I use this thing every morning. I've been using it every morning for years. And the reason why, it just seems to work. The fundamentals break technicals all the time. When the earnings come out, you know what? That's going to create a really significant move. So if you have the factors that are building up a case for you, you're trading with evidence, and that's always a good way to start. With NewsWare, we offer, alerts, which are just simple news retrievals. So in that white data entry box, I can just type in a symbol. And I get access to all the news that came out today, yesterday. We're storing roughly about a year's worth of data. I could do more. The news vendors don't like you to store more than a year typically, but that gives me access to last quarter's press releases. That gives me access to all the brokerage reports over the last week or so, which is kind of what I'm looking for in most of my trades. Another nice thing about this quick alert is that we have these news codes. Now, our list of news codes it's pretty extensive. as you can see, we have things for, buybacks, conference calls, corporate actions, dividends, economic earnings, FDA, Forex, you name it, it goes on, mergers and acquisitions. These are subject. These codes are built off of the metadata inside of the story. So if an earnings report comes out over Business Wire, they tag it with a specific code that tells you that this story is about earnings. Well, the other news wires do the same thing. PR Newswire is doing it. So is, Globe Newswire. So is, the Market Intelligence Wire. So what we did was we said, rather than have everyone have to know all these codes, let's just create a master code. So we created this, master code that comprises every vendor's earnings code. And we do that for all of the codes that you see listed here. In addition to those subject codes, we have industry codes where, you're looking, if you want to see a specific segment, specific sector, whether it be aerospace, automotive, or energy, we have hundreds of these available. As I mentioned, we have regional codes as well. If you want to see, you want to see news by state or by country, we have pretty much every country across the globe. The thing about the news vendors is they have more codes than what we're doing. I mean, you look at something like the SEC filings, they have probably 10,000 different news codes. You'll never use all of them. But you know what? Just tell me which ones you're looking for, and I can quickly filter the news by specific filings. If you want to just see what the institution or holdings are when they have to do their filing, I can filter the news by that. Another one is like a shelf registration offering. When a company's doing a secondary offering, those stocks typically sell off as soon as that announcement is made. So, it's a question mark whether what's going to come first, the story over an SEC document or the story over a press release wire. Can be either one. But as soon as they do come out, we store it, we display it. It's a good actually trading tool. I haven't used that one, but I have some clients that I've worked on with. So, you can pull up the news by ticker. You can pull up the news by recommendations. Let's say you can tie them together with an and sign. All right, this time. It's nice, it's quick and easy access to do it. Or you can set an alert. You can set an alert just to see all the broker recommendations that come out during the day. We can have it so, you're filtering it by just the recommendations. We can even drill down into it to say, just show me these specific brokers and not those. That's where the Boolean fuzzy logic comes in, where we can do and not type statements. So, think about it. You want to see Bank of America's, but you don't want to see, someone like Deutsche Bank. So we just say, we can do a period rec and Bank of America and not Deutsche Bank. Not that I'm not saying anything about Deutsche Bank's research. I'm sure it's fine. But that's the example of some of the alerting tools that you can do with the news codes. Another thing that we offer is topics. A topic is essentially a news file. So you'd want to use it if you wanted to create a really long alert. Think of this. One of the topics we have is all the stocks that trade on the floor of the NYSE. Well, that's a mighty long alert. So it's too long for it to go into an alert. So I created a file for it, which we call a topic, where I can put in all those ticker symbols. We offer topics for things such as, the S&P 500, OEX, the Russell indexes, We do sectors like financial, energy, health. We can do economic indicators and more. I even build ones for clients that say, hey, I want to only trade stocks that trade between a specific dollar range. So let's say you want to set up alert for stocks that trade between $5 and $20. I build a ticker list. Essentially, I do a scan. I build a ticker list of all the stocks that trade between $5 and $20. I drop it into a topic, and it'll be, stocks between 5 and 20 would be maybe the name. And when I put it into the system, only those stories that match that criteria will be displayed. That way you're not looking around for a million different news stories. These topics that we have are pretty extensive. There's public topics and private topics. Public topic is something we're making available to everyone out there. But if you make a topic, I don't want everyone to have the rights to it. I mean, that's yours. You did it. So unless you make it public, you're the only one who can see it. We do have the ability to share topics within firms that have the same ID, but it's a good little way to build programs. And if you have ideas, run them by me. I can do some back testing on it and show you the results and see if we have something that will work for you or not. And building these alerts it takes me no time to do, and I'm happy to help do it. Our display area is I have it set up as a tab view right now. I have it set up as tab view because I'm typically looking at specific alerts at various points in the day. But if you wanted to change that setting, it's not a problem. I mean, we have different types of layouts. I mean, some people want to see it in what they call a cascade view. Other people might want to see it in what's called a tiled view. It's just different ways to look at it. I just prefer the layout be a tab. We also offer what we call a composite setting. The composite setting is just a little bit different. It's you get to select which alerts you want running in your composite. So let's say I want to have I only wanted to see the indications, the hot stories, and market intelligence wires, but not the other ones. I can make that adjustment. Otherwise, it'll show me all of the alerts in there. Market intelligence is one of them. If you notice right here in the corner, it's naming the alert and giving you the last headline. That way you can identify where the story hit. Another thing that we also offer a lot of alerting tools. I mean, the views are good. The views are solid, but you know what? Sometimes you're looking at something else. So we created an audio alert feature. The audio alert feature allows you to choose an option of how you want to be notified. So as you can see, we can do alarms, we can do rings, we can have various sounds go off whenever a new news story within your alert is hit. You can set different ones for each alert. It's nice. I don't use it myself because I'm watching all day long, but it's a good indicator. Now there's also a text-to-speech version, which will read the headline aloud to you. So, when the breaking news hits, it's just going to read that headline. And it would say, Chevron won't counterbid for Anadarko fifth update. It'll read that headline from you. You get to choose between a male and a female voice, but it's solid. It's a good indicator. It catches your attention very quickly. Close out of here. What's fun, what I always find interesting is when I tell people who uses NewsWare, I mean, you know the traders are going to use us because we're fast. We're alerting you to the moves. You know the hedge fund guys are on us. We do business with a number of the mutual funds as well. We provide news feeds into, you know, these guys that have front-end trading terminals. They don't have the ability to go out and grab all of the news feeds that they want to have available on the platform. So they contact guys like us to say, hey, you know what? Can you give us a news feed where we have the distribution rights to put these sources on our trading platform? We're on the biggest ones out there, I'll tell you that. The exchanges use us. The exchanges use us because, you know what, they're doing their stock launch. They want to be able to monitor the situations that are going on. They need the news. So they utilize us, and I know that they use our front-end application. They also use it to put into their trading system. The one thing I find, you know, algos traders as well. A lot of the algo guys, you know, are always interested in the news, not really to trade off of, but more to not trade off of. Because news creates volatility, so in their models, they typically like to pull those stocks out of their trading equation. So they're using it as an alert rather than trying to ascertain a directional call from what's being written in the press release. And finally, the news organizations themselves. All these guys that are creating the news, where do you think they're getting it from? We've been doing this since 1996. These guys utilize us to give them the alerts for them to write their copy. They know that we're extremely fast at delivering the earnings releases. We're extremely fast at source to getting you a complete data set of all the breaking news that's out there. So they count on us to deliver the news to them, and then they rewrite the copy and they send it out over their own systems or news wires, whatever. But the content's got to come somewhere first. It's me. I do that. So I mean, it's kind of interesting, but you know, NewsWare is an alerting tool. It's a trading tool. There are hundreds of alerts that you can create. There's ways to profit off of it. I know most of you guys are S&P traders. You know what? Think about just having a listing of just the S&P 500 stocks, or maybe the most cap-weighted ones. You want to take a look at those economic indicators. You know what? I have all the data. Dow Jones is my best source for economic data. They have a global news feed, not what you're getting on, you know, maybe terminals here and there. They have a global news feed that truly does cover everything from Asia to Europe. I have access to it. I've been, you know, as an organization, we've been distributing Dow Jones forever. We're probably one of their oldest partners they have out there. So you look at it and you say, what else can we do in that? I can do a lot on the equities as well. But when you trade in S&Ps, you know, there's more than just the technical. If you know all the companies that are where there's risk to them, and they're big cap stocks, that's going to cause a ripple effect in the S&Ps. So that's the type of information we kind of aggregate together and distribute. Other ways that we can do it, you know, is just by the specific sectors that are hot for the day, whether it be the transportation or whether it be the financials. We can break down the news into those sectors as well, and you know, we can put in a portfolio of stocks. We can put in a list of portfolio stocks to run against a hot news code. So you know, you think about it. It's like, you know, if you have 500 S&P stocks, that's great, but there could be, you know, 3,000 stories in the morning, but not all of them are material. So you run it against the hot news filter. So that way you're only seeing, you know, you drop that list down to maybe, you know, 20 headlines, which isn't bad. This is our application-based service. We also offer a browser service. We can create email alerts that go to a specific email address if need be. You know, It's portable. Only one user can be logged on at a time, so it's kind of an issue. But I suspect that the first one that would be in your trading area, if you're not at the desk, you don't mind if it goes off if you want to log into it with your cell phone or a tablet type device. But NewsWare is a good tool. It's been proven. It's been out there. We have access to the best sources. I mean, our source list is extremely extensive. I mean, I've got everything from, Barron's to Benzinga, a host of Dow Jones wires. I've got Canadian wires. I've got European. I got Asian. I got all of the local newspapers across the country. I've got web content where we're scanning for specific websites that we put in. We have event data as well. We have a number of event feeds, and you get to choose which ones you want. NewsWare doesn't break the bank. You're typically looking at like $100 a month subscription. It's nothing crazy, but it's really a tool that is going to pay dividends for you, because it's going to give you access to those opportunities that have the potential to move the market. Anybody wants to trial, just contact us at newsware.com. More than happy to hook you up and give you a trial. I'll show you what we have available and even build some custom alerts for you. Any questions, any ideas, any thoughts or comments?
Hey, Bill. So I got a couple questions for you. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Okay, great. So now if I want to buy this, do I get exactly what you showed me here on the screen?
Well, it really comes down to the wires that you're looking for. Every wire has a different charge to it. And our model, it depends on what type of content you're looking for. I mean, I have certain wires that are, I have access to First Call, which is, Thomson Reuters access to the full PDF brokerage reports. They charge $1,500 a month for their wire. They're crazy. But I've got guys that are enabled for it. I'm not sure if they're being charged by Thomson or not, but I reported it each month. Then you have like Dow Jones. You know what? If you want access to Dow Jones, you can either have it billed directly to them, or you could go under my umbrella. My umbrella is a $95 rate. The monthly subscription fee for NewsWare is $80, but if you want to add any of these wires, the wires run from $10 to like $35, $40. Then we have others that go for $50 and others that go for $100. So I just itemize out a price list and I show you, and you check off the ones that are valuable to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like quotes. You're buying.
Yeah. If you want access to, the Merck data, you got to pay. The Merck's got their hand out. Same thing with these press wires. I mean, they're all looking for a fee. I pay these guys. I pay like a lot of the press wires flat fees, so I have full distribution rights. I'm not grabbing any free content. I want a licensed content, because I want to be assured that I'm going to be first to have it. It's a big, cost money to do it that way, but you know what? It's a difference maker.
And for the trial, how long can we try it for?
Here's the deal. If we typically do 10-day trials, but if you come in now, you get it between now and the end of the month, and so you get it for the entire month of May. To ascertain if this is going to be a product that would actually provide, generate revenue for you.
Oh, great. Sounds good. Neil says, Emad, I'm going to send out an email to everybody who registered. If you registered under that Act 2004, you'll get an email with the details to contact Bill. Neil V says, would you please show an example of how you would use this to provide a bias for trading the index future, such as the ES or the NQ?
Well, I mean, to create a bias, I mean, I guess I would do that. I would start doing that with a topic, and I would look at the content that's flowing. What I can quickly do is create an alert.
Well, we talked a little bit about that before, you and I have, about a FANG, kind of a FANG filter, right? Since those are the driving.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it with just where you list out the FANGs. I could do it where I list out all of the stocks in the S&P 500, but then I'd have to kind of weight it to say which are the ones that are going to, which are the ones with the highest volatility that are going to create more of a market swing that I need to pay more attention to. And that's kind of what I would do. I would, but to set up the alert is, it takes 2 seconds, but building it takes a few minutes. But you just have to create the idea. Hey, you know what? Doing the highest weighted market cap weighted stocks, doing ones with high volatility, doing ones whose earnings coming out, and putting them into a file. That's a way you can actually put them together to create an indication as to the direction of the E-minis to kind of see if they will work. We could also put an E-mini. We could, see all the news stories where people are writing about, the futures contracts or the E-mini contracts. I scan for futures news every morning in the pre-market just to see, what the indexes look like in the morning. You think that answers the question?
Neil, does that give you some ideas? Any other questions, guys, while we're here? Get them in now. Like I said, I'll follow up. You'll get a copy, a link to this presentation, and I'll give you the links to contact Bill also. Yeah, so Neil said thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I think we're all set. I don't see more questions. There's people watching on YouTube. The unfortunate part of YouTube is we don't monitor the YouTube chat. So again, just email Marlon at mrtopstep.com. I'll make sure you get an answer. Can't guarantee it'll be correct, but you'll get an answer. Market back up. We're just down 10 points now in this market. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay, Bill. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. All right.
We'll talk later.
You got it, my friend. All the best.
Yep. Thank you, guys. I'll be safe out there. It's a very volatile day today. So these 10 handle steps are flying by in minutes sometimes. So I saw somebody saying that they're doing the micros today because volatility. That's a great way to scale down your size and your risk. I'll talk to you guys all later in the chat rooms or in the internets.